This is Average Joe Finance's podcast, episode 8.
But you got to really be thinking about long term when it comes to money. As I always say, the best person to take care of the old you is the young you. It's the person you are today. So always think about that. And when I was 28, 29 years old or younger back in those days, I was thinking about what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? We just got done recording a fantastic episode with Eric Bowie. We talked about 7 different topics, and we're going to have to break this episode up into 3 or 4 different episodes due to the length of how much we spoke about it. But it was really fantastic information. I'm really looking forward to showing it to you guys. This first episode, we're talking about 3 of those topics, and that's 1, how he started an eBay business to get his daughter through college debt-free. Awesome story. You guys are going to love it. The second thing we're going to talk about is what he's done in real estate with his 6 rental properties that he's had for 10 years and, just his journey over that and how he currently retains 2 of them for passive income through rent being paid. And then the third thing we're going to talk about is what he does with his financial coaching. He talks about 4 principles, and those 4 principles are money mindset, money mainstays, money management, and money multipliers. Don't miss this episode, guys. You're going to love it.
Welcome to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. Are you trying to get out of debt, invest, or just not sure where to start? Then this is the place for you. We discuss different ways to get out of the rat race and build your wealth. Join us on this wild ride to financial freedom.
The Average Joe Finances Podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Do not use this for any real estate or investment making decisions. All views by myself or our guests are solely our own and do not reflect the opinion of our employers. All right. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm here with Eric Bowie, and he's going to share with us his story on how he went from a net worth of 0 to, I think he's around 600,000 right now at this point. I'm going to let him explain that. Eric, hey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What is it that you do and who are you?
Excellent. First of all, thanks for having me on, Mike. I definitely appreciate it. So I'll just explain, I guess, to your listeners a little bit about myself. My name is Eric Bowie, also known as Smart Money Bro, and we'll talk later about how that came about. But as far as me personally, I'm just an average guy who's been able to kind of leverage over the course of 20, 30 years, some mistakes I've made with money. At this point now, able to help and teach others kind of what I've learned. What I do in my day job is I manage federal government contracts. For instance, the government purchases probably over $600 billion of goods and services every year. And what I do is I manage those contracts on behalf of the federal government, between the federal government and contractors. Did it a lot for construction contracting over the years. Right now, I work for the Army Corps of Engineers. So that's kind of what I do in my day job. But of course, I've got a bunch of other jobs as well, things that I do on my own kind of after hours. And we'll get into those, I'm sure. But that's a brief introduction. One of the main things I do, though, as Smart Money Bro, is I help people one-on-one with understanding money, setting a direction for their money, setting goals for their money, being able to utilize their money to the best of its ability, kind of helping. Basically what I say on my website is that I'm helping ordinary people be a little extraordinary with their money and their finance. So that's kind of me in a brief nutshell. We can get into family and so forth. I am married, have children as well, older children. So that's me. I'm here in the Midwest, and I'm just a regular guy that has been able to do some really good things with money over the years. I learned a lot from my mistakes with money, and now willing and able to pass that along to others so I can help them as well.
All right. Hey, man, that's fantastic. Actually, here with Average Joe Finances, kind of doing the same thing, which is awesome because I love talking to like-minded people who have been in similar situations to what I've been through. Same thing, hit a point in my life where it was like I needed to make some changes with what I do with money. So I really appreciate your take on this. So with Smart Money Bro, I understand you have a blog, right? And then you also do one-on-one. Are you a finance coach?
Yes, exactly, Mike. I do write a blog on smartmoneybro.com, and I try to put out a blog post once every couple of weeks. And usually the blog posts are directed towards everyday average folks and what you can do in terms of different aspects of money, whether it's multiple streams of income, whether it's buying a car cash, whether it's your retirement, different ways to think about retirement, estate planning, you name it, things like that. Just money mindset, money mainstay, which is what are you doing right now to actually have money and have income, and then money management. How are you managing your money, budgeting your money, getting debt free, whatever that goal may be, what are you doing to manage the money that's coming in right now? And then finally, money multipliers. The final step is money multipliers. How are you able to maybe generate some other income? How are you able to have multiple sources of income so you don't have to rely on just that one job, and you're able to really kind of spread it around a little bit. So if something goes wrong in one area, you have something else you can fall back on. So that's really what I do on Smart Money Bro, is write the blog. I also sell some books on there that I've written about money. And but for the most part, it's the one-on-one coaching, the helping folks on a personal level.
Really love it. Some of the things that you're touching on here is that money mindset, the money mainstay, money management, money multipliers. But that last thing that you had mentioned was the multiple sources of income. And I'd like to touch on that a little bit. So you had sent me a little bit of info about you as we discussed doing this interview. And there was 7 things that you had mentioned that you were doing with, how you're making your money. And I was very interested in all of them. I know you said, hey, we can speak about one or all. I'd like to speak about all of them. And the first one that you had mentioned to me was that you started an eBay business that you put your daughters through college. That's amazing. Please share with our listeners how you did that.
Sure. Back about, I've had a lot of jobs over my life. And back about 2011 or 12, when she was about to go off to college, I said, well, how can there was no money saved up for college. So I said, well, how can I get some money for her to go to college? And, I kind of got tired of working the jobs and working the part-time jobs. I think my last part-time job on the side was 2009 or 10. I worked at Home Depot or something, or Eddie Bauer or something. But the issue was, how can I generate more money for her to be able to go to college and go there debt-free, come out of there with no money owed, so we can kind of get her started on the right path without being indebted. So I said, okay, I started watching a couple of YouTube videos, and I started watching some things about eBay and Amazon. And so I said, okay, I think I can do that. Let me find a few things around the house to sell on Amazon and eBay. Had some books. I started off on Amazon and eBay just to see which one was going to work best. And lo and behold, the things kind of went slow on Amazon in terms of selling. But eBay, I saw, okay, there's some things I can do this on eBay. I think one time I bought some type of statue or something for like $2 at the local Salvation Army. Turned around, sold it for $50. And I said, wait a minute, okay, there's something here. So I said, okay, let's start selling a bunch of stuff. So I started going to garage sales and estate plans and so forth. And lo and behold, after I was selling a bunch of stuff on eBay, I sold a pair of shoes that I bought for like $5. I sold them for like $35. And the shipping was quick and easy. Lo and behold, I kind of stocked up on some shoes that I would see out there for $3 or $4 at estate sales and at Goodwills and garage sales. And I started flipping the shoes. And what happened was, getting that niche right there in shoes was better than me going around and getting all different types of stuff and just selling whatever came up. For me, having that niche was much better. Now, at the same time, she also prepared herself to go to college without debt by getting scholarships and things like that, because that's what she wanted to do. And I was all for that. And I said, we're going to tandem on this thing. I'm going to try to generate some extra money, and you're going to do what you have to do in terms of scholarships, and we'll get this thing done. So lo and behold, I started focusing on shoes. And that was my main focus on eBay. And I came off of Amazon when I saw things on Amazon. The difference with Amazon is you typically have to sell new items. And on eBay, you can sell new or used. And so a lot of the shoes I got, I wanted a larger profit margin than if I were to go to Famous Footwear and find a Nike shoe for $40 or $50 and turn around and sell it for $60. That was a small a small margin. I wanted a bigger profit margin. So I said, I'm going to stay in the used shoe space and buy shoes for $3, $4, $5, $10 and sell them for 30, 40, 50, $60. So I did that for, I still do it. As you can see behind me, we've got some bins with shoes in there. But at one point, I was running for about 3 or 4 years there, around 2015 to 16. I was running about 300 or 400 pairs of shoes in my inventory, and then selling those and flipping those. There's a lot to go into as far as that, but that was the main way that I was able to use that residual, that extra income from flipping shoes to help offset some of the monies that her scholarships and things like that didn't cover. But there's a lot to flipping shoes and flipping things on eBay. And but I enjoyed it because I used to sell shoes part-time at Dillard's back in the late 90s. I was a school teacher for 7 years. From 1994 to 2001, I was a school teacher. And I taught seventh grade social studies in middle school. And during that time, I had side gigs. So I worked for 2 years or a year or so selling shoes at Dillard's. And so I knew the shoe. That's why when it came to 2013 or so, I kind of knew the shoe game a little bit in terms of men's shoes and so forth. And so I felt comfortable being in that niche. That's something that for your listeners, if you want to sell something or flip something on eBay, flip what you already know. If you know sunglasses, buy sunglasses low and sell them a little higher. If you know caps, if you know jeans, if you know purses, if you are a guy that is a small engine guy, okay, so flip small engines. Do what you know, because what it does is it reduces your learning curve. So, if you're a watch guy, then, start with watches, because you know watches well. You know how to price them. You know what the prices go for. You know where to get them for inexpensive prices, etc. So that's just something, a little hint for your audience to find a niche that you're familiar with and you know very well, and attack that niche, on eBay or wherever you're going to flip. Well, whether it be Etsy or Amazon or Alibaba, wherever you're going to flip, get a niche. So that's kind of the story. In 2017, my daughter did graduate from college with no debt. We were able to do that. And we're in the process right now. We have another daughter in college. She's a junior. We're in the process of paying for her to go to school debt-free as well. And I still do eBay. I still enjoy it. I don't have as much inventory right now. I keep about 130, 140 pairs of shoes and a few hats online on eBay right now. But that's an excellent way to have some extra cash and extra money. The biggest part is sourcing. Where are you getting your stuff from? Because you want to have as big a profit margin as possible. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to that, but that's kind of how it came about and why it came about. That's always the biggest thing, is the why. What's your goal? What do you want to do? At one point, when I was flipping them pretty seriously, I was bringing home I was netting probably $1,200 or $1,300 a month. And when I say netting, I always worked off about a 45% profit margin, which means that if I sold $3,000 worth of shoes in a month, I'm going to make about $1,400 or so of that in profit. And when I say profit, that means I'm taking off the price of the shoes. I'm taking off the price of shipping. I'm taking them off price of what used to be eBay and PayPal fees. Most folks don't realize, but eBay and PayPal broke their relationship off recently. And so PayPal is really not a part of eBay anymore. eBay doesn't use PayPal, but they did for many, many years. So, but I'm taking off all fees. And then I'm saying, what is the net profit from that? And the other thing about eBay, I'm going to throw this in there as well. Run it like a business. Run it like a business. Okay. So in other words, keep a book. Keep books where you're figuring out what your cost of goods sold are every month. What did you sell out the door? And what did you bring in? So you have like a net profit. Take taxes very seriously. At the end of every year, you want to file your taxes and include your income that you made from eBay. You have a good accountant that holds you responsible for those things, but that's a huge responsibility that a lot of flippers, they miss that piece. They don't worry about it. And I'm a guy that's been audited by the IRS for my eBay business. So I might be a rare person, but I've actually been audited by the IRS. I didn't keep good books, and I end up owing the IRS a little bit, but I learned my lesson. Get a good CPA. There's a lot we can go into in terms of the technical and real intricate details of eBay, but just to say, long story short, that's how I did it. And anybody can do it. And I still love flipping, so I still have my eBay business going.
Hey, that's fantastic. And I'm probably going to have you on in the future again and just really dive deep into eBay, because right now I think we're just hitting some wave tops, right? And I definitely want to be able to talk about all the things that you're doing, because some of it is very near and dear to me, because it's some of the same ways that I'm investing. But I want to touch a little bit on what you did with your eBay business and what you're still doing with it, right? So you realized the need, right? You had no money saved for your daughters to go to college, so there was a need, right? You said, hey, I need to look for a way to make money, and you found a way to basically retail arbitrage different goods, buy them cheap at garage sales or estate sales, and flip them on eBay, which is fantastic. And then you had that moment where you took that $5 pair of shoes and flipped it for $35. Man, that's a great return on investment, right? Shoes being the best ROI for you, and it was a niche that you were very comfortable in, because you said as a school teacher for 7 years you were doing side hustles, right? Selling shoes at Dillard's is what you said. So that was something that you were comfortable with and something that you knew about, right? So you had the knowledge. I believe that's very important, that you understand the specific niche that you're going into. You have a good knowledge base for it. So that's awesome. You said to run your eBay business like a business. Well, it is a business. I mean, you made some good money for it, and definitely the IRS thought it was a business, because they came at you and said, hey, where's our money, right? Uncle Sam's always going to get theirs. I love it. Your daughter graduated college with no debt. So kudos to you, man. That's fantastic. Between the scholarships and what you did selling these shoes on eBay, that's awesome. But one of the big key things that I want to take away from what you said when you put this all together, what's your why? Why are you doing this? And you had a very good why. You had a very good reason for doing what you're doing. And I really respect that. And hey, man, well done. That is fantastic.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. You got your daughter through college, and you're coming out, not checking your pockets and under the couch for change, because you're good. Let's take a quick break from today's episode to hear from our show sponsors. Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Mike Cav with Average Joe Finances. We're living in some pretty tough times right now, and if you don't have life insurance, you should probably get it. You need to protect yourself, protect your family, and protect what you own. Check out the link below in the show notes or in the video description. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mike Cav from Average Joe Finances. Just want to talk to you today about Prep Agent. If you're interested in learning how to become a real estate agent and being able to pass the test on your first try, check out Prep Agent at www.prepagent.com. Use code AVGJOE, that's Average Joe, AVGJOE, to get an additional 20% off. Welcome back, everybody. Let's get back into it.
You're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. Whether it's single or multifamily real estate, the stock market, or side hustles, we discuss it all. Strap in and enjoy the ride.
The next topic you wanted to talk about is something that I do myself, right? And that's your journey in real estate. And you, from what you told me, you invest in single family rentals, and how you invested over 6 properties over 10 years. And I think you retain 2 right now as rental properties that are bringing you a monthly passive income. Is that true? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure. One of the things I did, and part of my journey over the last 20, 25 years or so has been trying to locate ways to make money and generate income. And so when I was a school teacher, I did work at Dillard's as a shoe salesman. I also spent 2 years as a full commission electronics guy at the old Circuit City, if you remember that. So that was all commission. So
I remember Circuit City and Blockbuster. I was around for that.
Yeah. But one of the things I said was, how can I really generate some money around 1999 or so, 2000? I said, how can I really generate some ongoing income that's going to be good for my retirement many years from now? And so that's one thing that I think is important for your listeners, is to understand vision. Okay, so you have to start thinking Now, whether you're 20 years old or 30 years old, you got to think about what's the long-term play. I see a lot of people nowadays, they want to get rich quick and so forth, but you got to really be thinking about long-term when it comes to money. As I always say, the best person to take care of the old you is the young you. It's the person you are today. So always think about that. And when I was 28, 29 years old or younger back in those days, I was thinking about what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So one of the areas I begin to look at is real estate. So I grew up in a household where I didn't own a piece of property until I was 30 years old. Believe it or not, I lived in apartments and all this stuff and rented till I was about 30 years old. Here's the point: you're never too old, never too young. Just get started wherever you are, wherever you're at right now. In 2000, my wife's mother, when we got married, there was something called an assumption loan back in the days. And an assumption loan was where they don't check your credit. You just take over someone else's loan. Now those have been phased out over the years, but we were able to get our first property, our first home for $1 on an assumption loan from my wife's mother in the year 2000. And so that was my first that's the first house I ever owned in my life. And so then I begin to say, okay, I want to start looking around. So I start listening to some gurus, the Carlton Sheets, if anybody remembers him from back in the days. He was the no money down real estate guy. So I bought my first piece of property in 2000. It was a 2-bedroom bungalow style home. I bought it from a real estate agent who just sold it to me, and he carried the note. In other words, I paid him monthly for the property instead of going to a bank. I didn't have
So you
great
did
credit.
seller financing with him?
Yeah, seller financing through him. And so I did that back in 2000. Said, yeah, this is pretty cool right here. All right. So, of course, it needed a full renovation. It wasn't in the best location, but I was happy as a lark just to have an extra piece of property. So now I had two properties. I had the assumption loan property and my primary, and I had a rental property. And so over the next 3 to 5 years, 3 or 4 years or so, I accumulated, four other properties for a total of 5 properties, and 6 including my primary residence. And I had those properties up until about 2012 or so. And of course, we all know about the big market crash of real estate in 2008, 2009. That hit me hard. So one of the things, again, a lot of what I do now is, and when I coach people one-on-one, it's coming from a place of mistakes that I made. And so that's the beauty of what I try to teach people is, hey, I made this mistake. Watch out for it along your journey. So one of the mistakes I made with real estate, honestly, is I over leveraged myself. In other words, I had 6 properties, 6 single family properties, but I owed on all of them. I owed mortgages on all of them. And so the crash of 2008, 2009 really affected me. And so ultimately I lost those properties. I lost all but 2 of those properties. I held on to 2 of them, and they were the 2 that were the most profitable. And so today I still have those properties, but I've been a landlord since about the year 2000 or so. When I first got, I'm a backtrack. When I first got in the game, that very first property that was seller financed, it was a small 2-bedroom. I think I bought it for about $20,000 from him. And I went out and put another loan on the property at $30,000 and used that extra cash to actually work on the property and bring it up to par so it could be rented. So that was always my play. I did flip 1 property in the process, but for the most part, I was a buy and hold type of guy. And there's lots of ways to make money in real estate, right? You can buy and hold, you can go into multifamilies, you can flip, you can wholesale, you can lease, there's a lot of things you can do. My choice was to buy and hold, and then I flipped 1. For the most part, that's been a great investment. I went ahead and I had to get rid of the others, but I did keep 2 that I've still owned today, and they're profitable. And now, 18 years later or so, I owe very little on the properties. I still own a couple of them, but I don't owe much. And I'm still renting them out, enjoying it. Right now, what real estate has done for me is it's become a piece of the portfolio. As far as my entire financial position or entire financial portfolio, real estate's a nice piece of the corner. And so when I retire down the road here, it'll be there. The properties will probably be paid off by then. And it's a nice piece to have in terms of my overall financial portfolio. So that's kind of the real estate piece as well. And I do help people with that. In my one-on-one coaching at smartmoneybro.com, I say, hey, you want to buy some property? Let's talk about the different areas and ways to enter into property. How are you going to manage the property? Are you going to manage it? You're going to have a property manager. Are you also? How are you also going to find tenants? Because with real estate, the most important thing you do with rental real estate is find tenants. It's not about what type of lighting fixtures you have or what type of flooring you have or how pretty the countertop is. It's about finding the right people to get in the property that's going to take care of the property. And so that's where you want to spend a large amount of your time and efforts in, is your pre-screening and screening tenants. So I go through all that and I try to help people with that. I've actually written a book about that, 51 Strategies to Help Landlords. That's on my website. I try to help people with that because I've experienced that over the course of all these 20 years being in real estate. Perhaps you want to go multifamily and you want to go with something that's a little more labor intensive, duplexes, triplexes, and maybe even having a small apartment complex. And so those are all things that I can talk to folks about and try to help people with, So that's my real estate story, but still enjoy it, still have a good time with it. Currently renovating a property right now that has just freed up from a tenant who moved. So I enjoy it. I always look forward to helping folks with it as well.
All right, that's awesome. I want to rewind back again to
Sure.
one of the things you talked about in your first topic, and that is the what's your why, right? And you immediately start this off with your rental properties or just real estate in general. You said, hey, how can I generate some ongoing income to supplement my retirement in the future, right? You said the main thing was to have a vision, right? What's the long-term play for what it is you're doing? Man, probably one of the coolest things that I've heard somebody say in a long time is you said the best person to take care of the old you is the young you. Man, that's pretty awesome. Like, so what you're doing right now in your younger age to help set yourself up for the future, man, that carries some weight with me. I really, that really resonates. So I really appreciate that. The other thing you said too is that first home that you bought, that was the one that you guys moved into, you and your wife, was the assumption loan. So you essentially bought that for a dollar and assumed the loan. Man, that is so cool. Some lenders actually still do it. The house that I live in right now, my primary residence, I almost assumed the VA loan for this property. It was just very difficult getting the VA to sign off on it. And it would have gotten me a much lower rate at the time. However, when the rates dropped, I refinanced and it's a better rate than what that loan would have been anyway. And I would have had to cough up like another $60,000 or $70,000 out of pocket just to buy this home, which I'm glad it worked out the way it did, right? The other thing, your first rental property that you bought, you said you paid $20,000 for it, and then you dumped about $30,000 in with renovations. So I think it's important to understand that you can't just buy a place and then just stick it out there on the market and rent it out. You got to make sure it's a livable space.
I bought it for 20, and then I was able to actually refinance it for 30. I went to a lender. I put together a whole portfolio to a lender about who I am, what I do, why I want to do. I took it over to a bank and said, this is what I want to do with this property. I want to bring it up here, there. I explained the whole thing, sat down before them and said, can you give me, can you put it on your books for $30,000? And they said, okay, great. Thanks for showing us that information. We'll go ahead and take that for $30,000. So with the extra 20, I paid him off, and then I took 10 and renovated.
Fantastic. No, that's great. So yeah, so you use your entire portfolio to show them that, you were able to leverage that to get this loan, pay off the original mortgage, and then still put $10,000 into the property. So that's awesome. You'd also mentioned over the years, you had accumulated 4 more properties. And in doing so, you kind of over leverage yourself with that 2008 crash. Do you ever look back and say, hey, I wish I would have held on to those properties? Like, do you think that, over the years, like what they would be worth today, it would have been worth keeping them?
Yes, actually, I do. Good question, Mike. Yeah, I do wish that I had been thinking a little bit differently back then. Perhaps at that point, maybe after I had those properties, maybe even launched into maybe some multifamily properties and things like that. So I do wish that maybe I had held on to them or was able to hold on to them. But I tell you what happened, Mike, was around 2008 or so, 2000, I say 2000, more so 2010 and up. I was bringing home, $4,000 or so in rents a month. And I was paying out about $2,800 in rents a month. So, which is not a big, that's a $1,200 spread between 4,000 and 2,800 or so. The big problem I had is not that I was over leveraged so much, because I was over leveraged. It was hard not to be the way things were going back then. But it's that I didn't have a cushion of cash to save me in the times when I needed to have a cushion of cash. So one of the things I always impress upon people when I have let's say a one-on-one with them about real estate, and they really want to get into real estate, I always tell people, have money. Cash is still king. Don't go into real estate with no money and leveraging everything, because what will happen is, like what happened with me, I was bringing home 4,000 and I was paying out 2,800. But here's what happened. If one of the properties went vacant for a month, now I'm not bringing home 4,000. I'm only bringing home 3,000 or 3,200 or what have you. And so then another property has a major repair. Now I'm in the hole. Now I'm not bringing home 4,000. I'm not bringing home 3,200. Now I'm bringing home 2,200 because I had a major repair to property. And so now I'm in the hole for a month, but I still got to pay out $2,800 a month. So the thing is that I was over leveraged a little bit because of what happened in 2008, 2009 when prices dropped. But the bigger thing is that I didn't have a cushion of cash to cover myself. So I always tell people, don't start off going out getting a bunch of rentals and, putting, 2% down or 5% down or 8% down. Instead, have a bunch of cash before you even try to do that. Have a bunch of cash of $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, so that if something does go wrong, yeah, you're leveraged, but you have the money to cover yourself in the meantime when you have empty rentals. The thing that people always do with real estate is it always looks better on paper than it actually is in real life. And so that's one of the things the gurus, they don't go over. They'll tell you about the $4,000 a month and the $10,000 a month, but they don't tell you about the vacancy rate or when things actually go wrong that need to be repaired. Where's that money going to come from? So I always caution people about that, making sure that you have cash, a stash of cash for emergency purposes when you have rental income. There's a lot of train of thought. I like to say about $2,500 per property. You can get a lot of stuff done with $2,500 in a property, right? But sometimes you might want to go more than that. It also depends on, are your rental houses or your rental property, are they $150,000 properties or are they $50,000 properties? If they're smaller $50,000 properties, then you don't have to have quite as much cash on the side. If they're larger $200,000 properties that you're renting out and so forth, then you don't want to have $2,500. You might want to have $5,000 per property. Cash available for emergencies.
I would say I agree with you for the most part, right? I think if people are putting a 20 to 25% down on the property, you have a little more wiggle room. Like if the market drops 10, 15% versus just having a whole bunch of cash sitting to the side. But I say that as with my rental property, I currently have about $10,000 in an emergency fund for my duplex in case anything goes wrong. And I'm very thankful that I put that money to the side because, of course, when you buy a property, that's when everything starts going wrong. I've had to take care of the stuff with the air conditioning. We had a couple other issues, just minor things that these little things that pop up. And, in today's environment, I had one tenant that couldn't pay rent for 5 months, which they are working with a program now, and I'm getting back paid and everything. But I worked with them, and I think it's important that, when you're a landlord, you don't lose your humanity, and you still realize the people that are living in these properties, your properties, they're your residents, right? Don't always call them your tenants. They're your residents, and you should, make sure you're doing what you can to take care of them.
That's right.
So, but I 100% agree. You need to have some type of emergency fund in case anything goes wrong. So definitely appreciate that. I don't want to get too lost in the sauce here on this topic, but I do want to talk about the fact you said you wrote this book called 51 Strategies to Help Landlords, and you said that's available on your website?
Yeah, it's called Landlord Tips 51 Strategies, and it's available on the website. You just go to www.smartmoneybro.com, click on the tab that says books, and you'll see it there. I did write a book about it because I really wanted to help landlords, and I've got another one that I'm going to be writing as well, because I want to help landlords kind of fight their way through some of the issues and problems that come up that aren't always easily addressed. So that's one of the things that I've written is just to try to help fellow landlords and try to help them leverage my 20 years of landlording and say, hey, here's what I can do to help you out. It's available on Amazon as well.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. All right. That's going to be it for today's episode, but be sure to stay tuned next week as we continue on this discussion with Eric Bowie. Hey, if you're watching this video on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button and click subscribe. Also, if you're listening to this as a podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our newest episodes. Be sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. All the links are in the description below.
Thanks for listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast, your source for beating debt, saving money, and investing. Learn more at averagejoefinances.com.